It's the Innovation Podcast with Mark Reed Edwards and Garnett Harriman. Let's start the show.
Hey, Garnett, how you doing?
Great. How you doing? It's finally starting to warm up here in New York.
Oh, not here in Massachusetts. It was like November yesterday, but it is a spring day now, and it's sunny skies out there. Great day to walk the dog.
Good.
So one of the most important ingredients in innovation is education, and we have an expert on that with us today. Do you want to introduce him?
Absolutely. And just to do justice to our guest, I think he's an expert in a few different things, actually. So education being one among the quivers in his toolbox or tools in his toolbox. We have Larry Frank with us today, the president of LA Trade Tech Colleges, one of the largest and most innovative community colleges in the entire country. Hey, Larry, how are you?
Hey, Garnett. Hey, Mark. How you guys doing?
Good.
Oh, well.
Good to have you here.
Well, yes. So out here in LA, you might want to come and visit. It's in the 80s today. It's a beautiful clear skies. Come on out, guys.
You're killing me.
Well, you know, I'm pulled in a couple of different directions, mostly in your direction, Larry. So give me another 30, 45 days. I'll be out there full time. So
Come on out.
All right. So I mentioned that Larry is not just an education expert, and Larry, I'm going to do like a 60-second overview that will barely touch on it. And thereafter, feel free to jump in and just talk a little bit about, anything that you want to talk about in your background. And then after that, we'll start the Q&A. My understanding of Larry begins with the quality of the person who introduced us. We have a mutual friend in the form of someone that, Mark, you and I may end up collaborating with on future podcasts, an LA woman, mom, family person, entrepreneur, community and civic-minded person as well, named Itzel Molina. And Larry's good friend and mentor of her, and that's how I met Larry. And over the course of multiple meetings over the last several months, I've come to learn more about Larry's background in civic and public service. Larry is the former deputy mayor of Los Angeles, which, is enough of an achievement for a lifetime, but that's just one of his many, many achievements. I've come to learn a little bit more about his knowledge of labor relations and the history of labor relations in this country, which is a whole, we could have multiple
podcasts. That's a
podcasts.
podcast in itself, yeah.
Exactly, just on that. So, and then on a very personal level, Larry and I connect because we are both lifelong runners. Larry was a runner when he was younger and probably, may still be, I'm not sure. But we actually grew up in parts of Long Island, New York, suburbs of New York that weren't too far away from one another. And we had a funny conversation one of our times sitting together about this one particular park where we used to run cross country.
Sunken Meadow.
Out on the edge of Long Island called Sunken Meadow. So,
that's right.
He's kind of a Renaissance man, Larry Frank. And I'm just, with that, I think that's the perfect segue. Anything else you want to add to that, Larry?
Well, it's kind of strange. Most people nowadays have like the 2, 3, 4 careers, but I've had a kind of early look at that. So I started as a pastor, believe it or not, ended up getting involved in the labor movement. So then I was a labor organizer and did a lot of political organizing for years. And, from there ended up going to law school, did a sentencing practice for 10 years, criminal defense, side, but got deep involved in people's lives, kind of a fascination with what makes people tick. And then from there, kept my hands in on politics and kind of worked really closely with some of the folks that I had worked with back in my organizing days, and then played a key role in a number of them getting, into politics. And then one of them, when he became mayor, talked me into coming over and seeing what could happen, on the inside with the whole inside-outside strategies in terms of connected to the outside, connected to the inside to see what you can move in terms of an agenda. Did that for 8 years, got my hands on all the workforce development for the city and the agencies in the city of Los Angeles, amongst many other responsibilities. And then that work ended up translating into the recession hit in 2008, and all of these $40 million in workforce funds that went to the city. Doing labor exchange didn't make a whole lot of sense when there weren't jobs to exchange into. So I did a whole lot of training partnerships, which found me over here at Trade Tech, which is how I ended up being recruited as the president of a community college here in just south of downtown Los Angeles.
Oh, it's quite an odyssey.
Career. Oh yeah, I forgot, and I also taught for 5 years at UCLA. I forgot about that one too. Yeah, so it's been an interesting run. Yes.
Well, when are you gonna talk about your side gig, your moonlighting as a kayak travel and tour leader? I've heard rumors about the tour of the canals and the waterfront that you give from a kayak while you're holding forth on the history of LA labor relations.
Oh, that's right. So you got it's kind of my two favorite things to do, which is kayaking in industrial environments. And so the Port of Los Angeles, what you can see in the Port of LA, Port of Long Beach from the waterfront, you cannot come close to seeing that from anywhere else in LA. And so I just love the industrial environment. So that's one of my side gigs. My other side gig when I retire is I'm going to be doing tour guides for downtown Los Angeles, man, because I love the history of LA. There's more, awesome. I think it's more outsiders get into the history of LA than people that grow up here. We erase our history, those of us that lived here for a long time. The earthquakes do, and so does everybody else. So there's so much history here that so few people know.
Awesome. All right, let's jump into the questions.
Yay.
So Mark and I have studied a little bit about LA Trade Tech College. I've been fascinated by the taxonomy of pathways and programs that you use, and so can you give us a little bit of help us set the stage and give us some background on the college and its long and illustrious history in the city of LA?
Yeah. So LA Trade Technical College, it started back in the 1925, but there had been about a 20-year lobbying campaign by at that point, the LA Chamber of Commerce with the LA School District to build a vocational school. And a guy named Frank Wiggins was the CEO or ED of the LA Chamber. And in 1925, the school district said yes and built something that they ended up naming the Frank Wiggins Trade School because he actually died just as the school was about to open. And, LA at that point was doubling pretty much from 1860 to 1930. It doubled in size literally every 10 years. And obviously continued to grow very much so until really, quite honestly, the present. It's now there's kind of out-migration, in-migration, and birth rates are way down. This is the first time, I think, in the history of LA that it's kind of, not a huge increase in population. But back in those days, it desperately was in need of, the chamber felt, and as did other forces that needed real workforce development as a core, institution. So we started the Frank Wiggins Trade School about a block from where we are now. During World War II, we were very much part of the war effort. It actually moved onto the grounds of the second oldest school in LA School District, which was Polytechnic High School. And so Frank Wiggins Trade School on the grounds of Polytechnic High School is the history of LA Trade Tech. And continued to grow, continued to acquire land. And so we're now, again, it's 33 acres right between downtown LA and SC, right, maybe 6 blocks from the Staples Center. We have 22,000 students. It's quite a remarkable institution that, has a lot of famous graduates, from here, and has kind of worked its way right into the lifeblood of this town.
And give us for folks not familiar with LA Trade Tech by reputation, give us a quick profile or profiles. I mean, it sounds like it's a very diverse place. So one profile may not be enough of the typical student.
Yeah. So of the 22,000 students, right now we're 60% Latino, we're 20% African American, we're 6% API, Asian Pacific Islander, 6% Anglo, and probably about 7% people that state they're of more than one race. And that's kind of a new number. That's actually a growing number. People didn't used to say that in the past, but they are actually filling out their forms in that way these days. We're the only community college of the 115 community colleges with the state online college that's just been opening up that is majority male. You know, the other school in South Los Angeles, down in unincorporated South LA, Southwest College, is 76% female. So on the natural, a liberal arts school does go very much more in one gender, and mostly because of our focus that we stayed true to the career technical, the career education focus. 75% of our courses are in career education, is how I think we have a unique sort of student body in terms of a majority male student body, which you may not think that's progressive, but actually in a place like South Los Angeles, in a place how the normal course of college-going culture is, it is actually a profoundly meaningful thing to have a majority male culture. We have about 900 former foster youth. We have about 800 veterans here. We have 1,200 enrolled disabled students, programs, and services. We have a very large population of undocumented and DACA students, about 1,600. And we have probably about 2,500 students that are reentry students that are sometimes called systems-involved students. So it is a college that for many years we call ourselves a second chance college because for many, many people we were that second, third, fourth chance. And part of it was that it was a real focus on career education and people needing to really figure that piece of their life out. A lot of returning students. But, I'd say probably about the fifth or sixth time we heard from our people we referred to as our second chance students as saying, hey, we didn't quite feel like we got that first chance. Then we started calling ourselves a fair chance college. And then it started getting confusing. What is a fair chance college? So we basically say, we are LA Trade Tech, and we're very proud of who we are.
Right.
And is LA Trade Tech actually a single college, or is it multiple colleges, multiple buildings and facilities? My understanding was that there might have been more than one aspect of it that was combined.
Well, so let me, yeah. So in addition to the combining Polytechnic High School, which actually Polytechnic moved up to North Hollywood, Metropolitan Business College was incorporated also in Trade Tech back in the early 60s. And we then became part of a district. And the district, so we're the oldest college in the LA Community College district that was, established as part, of the master plan that came into place in 1959. And so the LA Community College district, there are 9 colleges in the LA Community College district. This is the largest community college district in the nation. We serve 250,000 students. We serve more African-American students, the entire Cal State system and the UC system combined, more Latino students than either of those systems separately. So it really is the place where LA and California really lift, students into the middle class. That's really what our focus is.
So now let's start digging deeper, because I feel like there's a lot of ways to touch on what is the real purpose of this podcast, innovation. And you probably have your hands in innovation, at the helm of LA Trade Tech in a few different ways. One thing I've been fascinated by, I mentioned it earlier, is this notion of the pathways and the programs. And coming out of like a traditional liberal arts college like I did, the nomenclature and the jargon is pretty different. And I think you're also involved in innovating and reforming, that whole concept of pathways and what they are. Well, just help our listening audience understand what the pathways and programs concept is within LA Trade Tech and what you're doing to innovate and improve.
Yeah. So, this is work that at this point is being fully embraced nationally and statewide, which is the concept of guided pathways. But in 2009-10, this campus, was looking at some of the worst completion rates in the state of California. They were looking at the fact that, the high schools didn't really prepare people for careers, that most of the K-12 CT programs were shut down through the recession. The adult ed programs were no longer being funded. They were complaining a lot about, the quality of students that were now coming to, LA Trade Tech College. And there was really a kind of a gut check moment where the campus went from complaining about the students not being college ready to, the campus understanding, that it's really about the college being student ready, and whatever it is, these are our students and we have to do what we need to do to create success. And so in that context, the college embraced, one of the first colleges in the country to embrace the concept of pathways, because, so many students would come in, they would, they'd take, maybe they'd be interested in applied sciences, or maybe they'd be interested in just the comprehensive, GE programs. They'd take some classes, they'd take the math class. Half of our students would be killed off by college algebra. In our system, you can go to UCLA, you can take, stats, you can take logic, you can take math for English majors. You do not have to worship at the altar of college algebra, but in our statewide system, and especially you had to, until just this September, you had to pass college algebra and then one level beyond it in order to be able to transfer. And so it was just a painful thing to watch what was happening to the students. And so the college developed the strategy called, at our campus, embraced through our Strategic Education Master Plan by our Academic Senate in 2012, PACS, Pathways to Academic, Career, and Transfer Success. And it took the 140 vocations that we train for, as well as our liberal arts programs, focused them into 9 pathways to create cohorts coming through those pathways, right? And then focused, after creating the pathways, focused on getting people onto those pathways early on by giving people the information they could, to really orient them, assess them, and get them the ed plans to kind of move into those pathways. And then keeping people on those pathways, helping them get to completion, helping them get to the career education part of it, to connect up to the good jobs in Los Angeles. And then a lot of work focused on assessing learning. And that is the basic framework, the statewide framework, the national framework at this point, the 4 pillars. But it's work that we've been engaged in at Trade Tech for, now 8-9 years. And I think it's a natural for a place like Trade Tech, where 75% of all the courses are in career education, because there's a traditional kind of block scheduling that goes with it. But then the work then becomes, once you create the pathways, it's bringing capacity to the pathways. So it's embedding counseling so the counselors and the faculty in that pathway are fully aligned in terms of what's needed by those students to be successful. We have pathway navigators helping them get to the world of work, as well as understand how the internship pieces work to get the experience to be successful. We have a specific person we call our student services assistant that takes the handoff of the student from our bridges, our one-stop for where we do the orientation, to connect people up to that pathway, right? And it's been, work that's focused on cohorts, focused on guided choices, focused on, getting people started early to make a commitment, and then keeping them focused to completion, and then making sure that at the end of the day, there is the job, there is the career. So many of the good jobs, which is really what kind of my maniacal focus on is, kind of from my 8 years overseeing workforce development in the city, I kind of know where all the good jobs are. Many of the good jobs are incredibly complex to enter. And so I'd be happy to kind of talk through some of that information. But it's not just about, hey, train them and they'll figure it out. These are complex entry points for the world of work in a place like Los Angeles, in a place anywhere.
All right, we continue our chat with Larry for 2 more episodes. Next time, we learn about Larry's background and how he moved back and forth from business and entrepreneurship, academia, and government. We also learn about how LA Trade Tech is innovating and how they're training students for the workforce. In the weeks ahead, we'll chat with experts Bruno Aguiar about the world of esports and Mark Gallagher about innovation in the world of F1. We also have chats planned on facial recognition and lots of other subjects, so stay with us.
Thanks for joining Garnett and Mark on the Innovation Podcast. Visit innovationpodcast.co to subscribe and listen to other episodes.